Web3 TV.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Traders Brawl podcast. This is episode 64 with Shokrukh Yulchiev, who I'm about to introduce in a second. But for those who are new, welcome, and for those who have been with us, thank you for staying with us. We are an education podcast. We are here to educate about all the different things in Dubai, not just Dubai, fitness, financial freedom, blockchain, crypto, you name it. And today's guest and today's topic is going to be on sales and closing deals. Shon, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
My absolute pleasure. Shon, we met a long time ago, 2 years ago, I believe, around that time when I was still starting out and I was still creating my podcast, the Traders Brawl podcast. Do you remember those days?
Yeah, man, those early days.
Right? And I was asking you for advice on how to create the logo. I asked you for feedback. I really appreciate your time in helping me with that.
Pleasure, man. Always happy to help. On my side, I believe in good energy and helping people around. So at the time you needed advice and I was like, look, it doesn't cost me anything. Let me help a friend out. So
right.
That's what it was.
And
man.
then fast forward to today, I'm having you sitting next to you. It's really like a great pleasure. And I think there's great progress that you've made on your side. I've seen you told me your journey from you worked at this place, you worked at that place, you worked at a bunch of different places. And now you're in a somewhat better, more stable position now that you're able to be a freelancer. Is that right?
Yeah, man, you know, this is the Dubai life, right? So what I realize here is a lot of people go through a different journey. Yes. Certain people come and they kind of live and work in the same place for like 10, 20 years. In Dubai, a lot of the times people jump around quite a lot. Yeah. It has its positives and negatives. So on my side, I've gone through different experiences, different companies, different industries. Now I'm in a position where I've decided, actually, I've been having a conversation the other day with a mentor of mine who is also a partner with in a few ventures.
Let's hold that thought 1 second.
Right,
let me read your bio. For the audience who may not know
worries.
Shon, let me read his bio real quick. So, born in Bukhara, Uzbekistan, spent 16 years and left home at a young age. You were an exchange student in the US before going to university in London. You have a bachelor's and master's degree, master's in finance and investment. Your first unofficial job was at 16 years old. You helped people with university entrance exams and you made a few $100 of money. Good money for a kid. Now you moved in Dubai in 2017. Brexit, obviously, that was when Brexit was happening. You made your own Brexit and you came to Dubai for a better future, closer with your family as well. You love gym, you love traveling. You're a self-taught travel agent and fitness enthusiast. I did a gym session with you. You killed me. You killed my legs. I couldn't walk.
We were just playing around. That was nothing serious.
And in terms of goals and aspirations, you want to create a stable line of multiple income streams to look after your family. You want to enjoy retirement, mentoring, and helping people just because you like to without stress. Freedom is about working for yourself and doing what you enjoy without worrying where the next paycheck comes from. I love that last line. Yeah.
That's exactly it, man.
Do you have a mentor? Since we're talking about mentorships, do you have a mentor?
Officially, not really. There are certain people I look up to. And what I do, actually, I simply just listen to a lot of people and absorb information. So a lot of people around me give advice. I look at different things. I try to absorb and learn from different scenarios, different cases, different people. Because there is no perfect person or there is no perfect, let's say, a role model. Right. Everybody has positives and everybody has negatives. True. It's basically up to you to decide what is applicable to you, what is relevant to you. If you use a good example of gym and exercise, you see a lot of those ads online saying, oh, get a six-pack, etc. The guy already has a six-pack. So if you're a person who has 20, 30% body fat, he's not the role model for you because for him, that's a lifestyle. It's not necessarily a lot of hard work in order for him to have the six-pack versus you and a regular Joe. So that wouldn't be the guy who look up to. It could be a person who had 20% or 30% and they brought it down to 15 or 10%. So that's the person that you aspire to at that point. Then afterwards, they're like, all right, I've achieved here now. I've set myself a different goal in life. this is what I achieve, and this is basically you have a different barometer, and then you're like, all right, now on 15%, I need to get that down to 10.
10.
Who is the person was able to achieve? So that's how you're able to set different things. So this is when it comes to mentors and people, I am listening to different people and using that information, applying to myself to better myself, etc. So that's basically the situation.
I want to build on this. There's always, what you've said, I'm going to summarize it as there's always a higher mountain. So for example, one person who's on 10% body fat will probably look at a mentor, try to find a mentor who's done 5%, right? But when you're at 5%, what do you look up to? So just like when you've made your first million, you're going to try and make your next 10 billion, then your 100 billion. Then when do you stop? There's always a higher mountain, you know, and it's same with deals. You close a deal that's around X amount, but there's that deal, there's that deal, there's that deal. So what's going on for you in your mindset there of when I'm happy, when I should stop, when does freedom truly exist?
There is something actually called ikigai, which is so if you know, in Japan, it's sort of a way of living. So that is your purpose in life. So a lot of people, some people have it, some people don't. You need to set yourself a target. Why did you get up in the morning? What is your goal? What do you want to achieve in the large scale, etc.? As you read out, obviously one of the things for me is family is important. So that is what my drive is. I want to create a life for my family, for people that's close by. And that's when you set a target saying, what does a good life look like in your eyes? Is it being a person that's able to look after their family and also help out the people close to you, people who give back to the community, or have $1 million in the bank, $10 million, have $1 billion, 100 billion. So at a certain point, you obviously need to set a goal, work towards it, and say, that is enough. This is why obviously, as you mentioned, for me, I want to achieve a certain freedom and certain position in life, after which then I'm just going to relax, because ultimately what I believe in is you're never going to take away all the riches of this world with you to the next world. So you have to come to a point where you're comfortable and you find that good balance where you enjoy life and you're not slave to the money, you're not slave to work, and then you're doing something because you enjoy it, not because you have to worry about paying the bills or anything else. So coming to the position where you're comfortable, and that's basically is the point. When you start out early, especially a lot of young entrepreneurs or people trying to decide what they want to do with life, is you set yourself a goal, and then you have a long-term goal and a short-term goal, and then you're able to achieve those goals one by one. And that's where obviously the example of body fat is like, I'm 20%, I get to 15, amazing, now I set myself the next goal, and then you basically try to improve and get better and better. Because if you're going from 30% all the way to, let's say, 8%, it looks like a very difficult task, which psychologically just weighs you down and you give up immediately because it's very difficult to achieve. However, if you have those measurable goals that are small targets, step by step, you're getting one step closer to where you want to be. And that's where obviously it's very important to set yourself a target and a plan, what you want to do. And this is how I sort of live my life.
Right, right. Before you came to Dubai and you were still living in London, what inspired you to decide that Dubai would be the place to move to? Because at that time you hadn't moved to Dubai, I'm assuming, and I'm guessing, did you have connections in Dubai that helped this? What inspired you?
Well, one of the, I guess not necessarily inspirations, one of the things that drove me to this was Brexit, as you said. You know, I saw the Brexit happening. The second they announced it, I made my own Brexit. I didn't see a good future in UK, and this is why I shifted to Dubai. One of the other reasons or inspirations coming to here is, there's actually a lot of reasons. One of them is much closer to home. It's a lot easier to travel in and out. So it's the beauty of it. You don't need a visa nowadays. Before that, visa was still easily attainable. UK was always difficult. You had to go through so many hurdles. I've graduated 2 universities. I had 0 family present at both graduations, which is really unfortunate. I'm very close to my family, but due to visa issues, etc., it was very difficult for them to travel. So one of the reasons was coming here is it's very close to home, and we're literally 3 hours away. So you get on a plane, you're here in 3 hours, vice versa. So that was one of the things. The other reason why I came to Dubai is, for years before I even came, a lot of people were saying, hey, look, come to Dubai, there's a lot of opportunity, this is where the future is. And that was one of the things I was like, all right, you know, out of all the places when I left UK, I chose to come to Dubai because it gave you that Western lifestyle, it gave you the world of opportunity, it gave you the freedom, what you want to achieve. and still be very close to home. So these are some of the different factors that kind of brought me to here. Brexit is the one that made me leave UK, because I've been there for 14 years. So most of my adult life, from 18 until my early 30s, I've lived in London. So that was my second home. I got used to it, but I came to a point where I didn't see a good future, so I ended up Brexiting myself.
But when you were in London, you were on a visa? A work visa? How did you live there?
So that was basically different kind of ups and downs I went through, because I went to school. So I went on school, I was on a student visa, then after which obviously I took a bit of a break, then went to do my master's. After which I think at the time, I forgot the name of the visa, but they were giving like a few year visa for people who want to work after the education. So I had one of those, I was working, and then obviously at one point it was becoming more and more difficult. That's when Theresa May was in power. Me personally, I thought she didn't really like immigrants and was trying to get rid of people. Again, it could be my opinion, some other people might agree, but it just came to a point where I thought, you know, the benefits of being in London outweighed all the trouble you had to go through. This is why I did the Brexit myself.
I see. And did you ever work did you have the ability to work in London as well? Yeah,
of course. I worked there. One of the last jobs I was in London before I moved out, I was doing corporate sales for Virgin Active. So
Virgin Active, as in that's owned by Richard Branson?
In a way, yeah. I think they sold it nowadays. I'm not sure, but Virgin, obviously, he owns the brand, and they have a lot of different businesses. Virgin Active was one of the brands, obviously, that belonged to them. And what it was is a health and fitness chain. So they had health clubs all over Europe. There were a few in Asia as well. So as part of the office that's based out of Canary Wharf, so we're closely working with all of the you know, big dogs in the corporate world. You got the S&P, Moody's, Credit Suisse, JP Morgan, you name it. So we were basically working with them at the time.
And your job was to get them to sign up on close deals, close sales. What was the deal exactly?
So for me, basically, one of the things that we were doing is we were managing the corporate relationships with all these institutions. And what they did for their own employees is offer benefits. So let's say you go get a job tomorrow in Credit Suisse. So they give you your salary, they give you health insurance, they give you lots of health benefits, etc. So obviously a gym membership or certain lifestyle perks, that was one of it. So what we did is we'll closely work with them in order to ensure these benefits are coming through. We'll discuss different terms. I was also working on quite a lot of value-added benefits through partnerships. So that was also in my domain. So these are some of the things that
Right. Okay. And then you moved to Dubai, and then now this leads to my question. So since we're talking about sales and closing deals, what was one of the deals that you closed that you feel really proud of, out of all the deals that you closed?
I would say a few years back, basically during COVID time, I was part of an F&B startup. So it's F&B Tech.
And this was already when you were in Dubai?
Yeah, this was already in Dubai in F&B Tech. I was really proud of what we were able to achieve. Overall, what we did is a lot of the businesses went out at the time because it was very difficult to do business. People were running out of cash. Especially people that had to deal with F&B, because F&B completely shut down.
Because of COVID.
Yeah, exactly.
No one's buying.
There was no business. You couldn't go out and have a burger, for example, or a pizza. Delivery really shot up. So one of the proud achievements during that time is what we did is we not only survived, we were able to double the revenue streams and amount of clients that we had on board. And one of the big deals we closed at the time was with Jumeirah. So they had quite a lot of different brands. Maybe you know a couple of them. They have, for example, Noodle House. They have Pai Tai in Madinat Jumeirah. Then they had quite a lot of Duck Hook, Hill House Brasserie. So they had quite a lot of different names. So that's one of the deals that I'm quite proud of, because it took quite a lot of work in order to get it through. And despite COVID, we made it through. We closed the deal. They were amazing clients. I am to date actually good friends with the person that we closed the deal with. And so it's a very proud achievement, a lot of hard work and perseverance. In the end, we were able to achieve a very high-profile client like that, and strike up a relationship that lasted years.
Since we want to wow the audience a little, and they want to know some figures, some rough estimates of how much did you actually close in this deal, roughly?
This deal is, not really sure if I'm able to disclose all the numbers, but it was basically in hundreds of thousands per year because it was quite a lot of locations. If I remember correctly, it was like more than 20 different locations. And the formula for the business, we had per transaction commission.
Right.
So the numbers are fairly good ones. So what I will tell you what I can share, which is what we'll be able to achieve is our app at the time became one of the top apps in the country. Although we're a startup, one of the new players, after the likes of Entertainer and let's say Smiles, we were number 3 in regards to popularity and the success we achieved, which was quite great, from nowhere getting to obviously to the third position in the country. This is something I'm to this day proud as well.
Right, right. So this was when you were working for a company. Now, are there any deals that you closed on your own, say that it was not with a company but by yourself? Or not yet?
Yeah, well, there's a few things that we're working on.
I mean, till this day, I mean, not from that time period, until now.
Yeah, of course. There's a few projects that we're working on at the moment. I personally closed quite a few six-figure deals.
Right.
At the moment, obviously, we had a few scheduling, let's say, challenges.
Yes.
So that was basically what
but
was causing me.
But it was a six-figure deal still.
Yeah, exactly.
It closed. It closed.
Yeah. So this is obviously that we worked on. There's a few more that we're working on, and I suppose we can discuss this a little bit further once you throw in a few questions.
Yeah.
But this is basically where I came to life, where I am, as I was saying earlier before, you said, let me give you a bit of an intro. I was talking during Ramadan to a partner, a mentor of mine, and we were talking about holidays because we were saying, when can we get back to business? And obviously during Ramadan, you have Eid,
yes.
a lot of people take off. So
yes.
a lot of people traveling on holiday, business kind of stalls. And then we're talking and I was saying, you know what, back in the days, I used to sort of strategically plan my days off so that it allows you to maximize on my annual leave. And that's where basically my partner said, and he was like, you know what, Shon, it's about time that you work for yourself. And this is basically what struck in me, and I was like, he is right. I'm done working for people. I'm working for myself. I'm working as a partner with somebody. So this is where basically I am going to. So we are working now with different projects. They're involved in the Middle East, in Asia, back in my country as well, of Uzbekistan and Central Asia. So that's what quite a lot of things is brewing up. Hopefully in the next 6 months or so, I can give you an update, what we'll be able to achieve.
Yeah, for sure. But really good to hear this. I think for the audience and myself, I really want to know what it takes to get a deal actually closed. It's great. You see lots of real estate people flaunting big high-rise projects, but ultimately they have to close. They have to close to survive. They have to, otherwise they end up getting terminated or having to move. So it's really like a real estate thing. It's almost like a freelance thing. You have to close the deal. What does it take to close a deal? What would you say are some sales tips that you can share?
So I would say one of the main things for me personally, what has helped in life is perseverance. So not giving up, not accepting the no, and always looking for a way to get to that finish line. And that's basically where you got grit and perseverance. And you make it happen. So that I would say is probably number one thing for me, and that will help you to deal the close. There's a lot of people who give up halfway through. There's a lot of people who make excuses. Life is tough, Nobody gets things handed to them on a silver platter, unless you're royalty, I suppose. But
we talked about that.
Ultimately, life is what you make of it, and sometimes you're a bit lucky, and sometimes things are a bit easier. But ultimately, nothing is just given to you. You still have to work for it, and that's where the perseverance and grit comes in. There's a lot of different factors. There's a lot of different skills that people possess. Some people have charm. Some people are very outgoing. Some people are resourceful, etc. All those things do help. But if you don't have the perseverance, then you don't close the deal because it's a marathon.
Right.
So if you give up halfway through or at 99%, then it's not 100%. So as they say, almost doesn't count.
Right.
So you gotta make sure you get it done across the line, work really hard, and that's basically, perseverance, grit, and hard work That's the key formula for me.
So my next question there is, can you teach perseverance to a child?
You can, some things is naturally people have. So there's certain traits one person has, one person doesn't. So those things you cannot teach. It's just inside that oomph in there that you can't teach. What people do is they kind of overcompensate with other things which you can teach. So for example, structure. Maybe perseverance might not strong suit. However, if you create a structure and if you create basically a way for you to get tasks done, to make sure that you're sticking to the plan, you're sticking to the goal, that can help you out a lot. However, perseverance, for example, you know, it's a trait. So like not everybody has it.
Right.
And this is like a mental thing. So sometimes you either have it or you don't have it. In terms of teaching, there's a lot of skills you can teach. I can teach someone how to sell. I can teach them what the pitch should be like. I can teach them, you know, what are the signs to look for. But ultimately, certain things that I learned is there's a lot of things you can teach. But that inner talent, whether you can close a deal or you can sell, that comes from within. And some people, they will know the steps. For example, they will say, step 1, say this. Step 2, say this.
Yes.
Step 3, say this. The person who has it in them, they're not going to go by steps. They go by instinct. They know that this is basically, you start at A and you end in Z. You know what your goal is. You know what you're working towards. So they're not going to go through the steps because that's what I'm going to teach you to give you a structure to follow. The person with an instinct, the someone who knows what to do, they will follow the structure. However, they know how to zigzag around it, or they will skip a few steps because they know it's like a predator. They're going for the kill. They're not going to play around. So if they know the kill is there, they're going to go for it. They're not going to sit and wait saying, oh, by the way, there's another 5 steps I need to take. So if they see a deal and it's ready to close, they will go ahead and close it. They're not going to say, oh, I need to ask them a few questions, we need to sign the papers, etc. Immediately, they will go for the kill. And these are the instincts that some people have that cannot be taught. So the instinct is something as well that you either have it or you don't. People try to teach it and hone it, but there's a difference in life where you get here with all the things you taught and you work really hard, but if you got that talent, this is what you get. So basically, you know, it's like the Olympic racing, right? You know, all those guys work really hard, are hard workers.
Hard workers.
They all work hard, they run super fast, they're better than you and I, they dedicate their life. But some of those have that extra in them, which is what makes them be the first.
True.
So that's one thing you can't teach them because all of them have amazing world-class coaches. All of them say, you have to live like this, you have to train hard, you have to eat this, you gotta go to sleep, you gotta go to rest. So all of these people have the formula to be successful. And the difference between them is just 1 or 2 of those guys or girls have that extra in there, and that makes a difference.
Right,
so this is, I guess, the closest I could explain as an example, what makes a difference between people. So there are some people who are successful, and there are some people that are successful.
You know what I love about your analogy? That it's related to fitness.
Yeah, look, you know, I told you I love fitness, so I'll make examples that kind of I relate to. People try to relate to what they deal with and what their life is. Some people passionate about food.
True.
So when they make examples, they'll probably give you an example of a Michelin star chef who makes a lasagna or whatever. I'm not really good at it, so I can't really tell you much about it. So I use examples that kind of relate to me and my life and, you know, sports, things like this. I love
that. But let's talk a little bit about some days where of struggle, because you know Dubai is not just Dubai. Generally, life is a struggle. So what do you do on the days when you're down, when you're feeling less motivation than normally? You're not as pumped as normally. Things are down, and there are some days where everything is not going right. Family, something happened. Here, something happened. Flood happening. Oh my God! Why this day everything is happening? How do you deal with that?
Well, that's a very good question. You know, it's there's quite a lot of answers for it, and it's a mixture of beliefs, religion, and the personal traits that everybody has.
Yes.
Me personally, I like to look at the brighter side because it always can be worse. So no matter how bad you are and how much you're getting flooded on, etc., just look around the world and look at things that's happening. There's a lot of people that have it way worse than you. So what I like to think, and I try, and sometimes it doesn't even come easy for me. I'm down and I'm, very, let's say, down in the trenches, the mood is gone, not really happy. But then eventually I get to it and then I just talk to myself and say, look, I have it better than everybody else. And all I need to do is just continue working, because in my life I had a lot of ups, a lot of downs, and those down times, you just got to believe that you were going through a test. God is testing us, and there's nothing that will be given to us as a test that we can't handle. So ultimately, it's again, perseverance. So it's just not just sales, it's in life. So what you need to do is you just need to stay consistent, you need to persevere and continue working towards your goal. There will be times that are down, however, it's up to you to turn around. So if you give up, you're basically one of the people that never reach that 100% success and close the deal or get things done. So what you got to do is you have to continue, despite everything, you have to believe and you have to work towards that goal that you've got, and inshallah, eventually you'll get there.
You get there.
And that's the only way. By the way, look, it's easy to give up and quit.
Yes.
The answer is simple. Then you don't get where you want to get.
Yeah.
So if you have a target or something you want to achieve in life, you just have to continue. Eventually you'll get there.
So you talk a lot about continuing and not giving up, but when there may be some occasions during a deal that you're trying to close where there's no point going further with this deal, and it's more like walking away rather than giving up, because this person, you don't see them actually giving you interest. Has that happened to you before? And
yeah,
you just stopped?
Yeah, look, I have almost 20 years experience in doing business, closing deals, working with different people. In life, things like this happen. So what you could do is to minimize that, because you want to value your time.
Yes.
So if you're basically spending time on a deal, you're negotiating with people, you're trying to close something, whether that's a financial deal or a relationship or something else, ultimately it all boils down to filtering and trying to understand where you should dedicate time and where you shouldn't. Now, nothing is perfect. And there will be times where you basically come to a certain point and you have to cut your losses and say, all right, this is not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
It's not necessarily...
It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. It's not necessarily that you quit. It's just the formula isn't right and is not on your side, is the other side. It takes two people to tango. So ultimately, you could do all your best. I could do everything right. I could do, above and beyond, etc., etc. But ultimately, if the other party is not willing, there's not much thing you could do. Yeah. What you could do, however, to minimize the situations, you have to improve your filtering and you have to improve the selection process in the beginning. So let's just use an example of, let's say a gym. Well, let's just say a car, for example. Let's say you got, 100,000 dirhams in your pocket and you want to buy a car. And you go to a dealer and you're like, hey, look, I want to buy a car, etc. So now he might come and say, hey, by the way, let's do this. And you start negotiating, but he's trying to sell you a Bentley or a Lamborghini, for example. We all know that that budget is not going to work.
It's not going to work.
And the guy can continue trying to convince you. And by the way, you love it. Amazing car. Great. It comes with all the bells and whistles, super fast, super comfortable, etc. But ultimately, it's a waste of time because your budget doesn't allow it. So this is where obviously the other party that's trying to close the deal, they should have listened to you in the beginning. And this is one of the obviously important skills in negotiation and doing business, is listening. You have to understand what the needs of the other party is. So if you understand them in the beginning, and if you say to me, saying, Shon, I want to buy a car, I got 100 grand, then if all I'm selling is Bentleys and Lambos, then from the beginning I'll say, Adel, I haven't got this, come back to me when you have more money. Or I will say, Adel, I will sell this, however, I have a friend that sells other cars that's within your budget, so I simply send the deal that way. And that's another thing that made me successful, is referring people. At the end of the day, it doesn't have to be me that gets something done, or I get the benefit. I love to share the love, and that goes back to when we're talking about in the early days of Traders Brawl, your logo, etc. I was like, look, I'm not gonna do any of this design. I'm not gonna benefit from this. I'm happy just to help, or I can say, hey, Adel, go to this person or that person. They will assist you because I'm not capable. And I'm more than happy to obviously to share the love with everyone. So going back to our example, it's you minimize those unsuccessful situations by trying to understand whether this is possible. Is this within the means of a need of the other party? If you're able to minimize those situations, your success rate will go higher. Nonetheless, there will still be the cases where things won't work out, but it's up to you in order to maximize those successes, minimize the situations, and value your time. And ultimately, the formula will be there. You'll have enough success in life to get you where you want to be.
I resonate with what you're saying. Now, in a city like Dubai, I feel it sort of changes the game. I've been in London, I've been in Taiwan, I've been in other cities. In a city like Dubai, when it comes to closing deals, there's a little bit of, as an element of ego I've noticed here. Maybe it's just me, I'm speaking from experience, but would you resonate that there's an element of ego here when it comes to closing the deal, and that ego sometimes can get the better out of a person, can actually lead to, I don't know, a fight or a kind of unpleasant interaction with the person. Have you had these ego moments in Dubai?
Yeah, look, not only Dubai, it happens all over the world. Ultimately, we're human beings.
But here it's more flashy, it's flashier.
Fair enough. So ultimately here, what you could do is obviously, you got to know how to play the game.
Right.
So.
But have you ever been tested in that where
Yeah,
your ego came out?
On my side, I'm a very calm individual.
Yeah?
So I only get passionate and emotional when you really get to me.
Yeah.
A lot of times I'm in control. I am the calmest person where, you know, the world could be crumbled behind me.
Yeah.
I'll be very chilled and relaxed about it. So to get me to the point of altercation, let's say, is very difficult, especially in business.
Right.
So what I will simply do, I'll just walk away. If I see something that is basically ego is getting the better of it, etc., that's I will just call quits. I'll be like, look, it's not worth my time.
It's not worth your time.
It's not worth all the nerves you go through, all the hassle.
Yeah.
You walk away. Ultimately, what's important in life is you and your image. So you don't want to hurt it by, you know, getting an altercation with someone, getting into an argument, because it will come back. Ultimately, you want to be somebody who's in control, and you need to know where basically you walk away. So if you see something that there is ego involved, if you're not able to control the situation and come to a conclusion that's favorable to you, it's always good to say, all right, you know, it's a similar thing where in the other case you had to filter the deal. Here, you know, the ego, etc., is getting the better of it, but ultimately you say, all right, it's not going to get to where I need it, so I just need to cut the losses here and move on, because alternative is, it will still not get you where you want it, because if an altercation happens or there's going to be a lot of words exchange, etc., it's not going to get you where you need.
Because say you weren't paid, and I'm sure there may have been situations, not necessarily you may know, we don't have to get into personal, but anyone, say a person was not paid for their work or their closing of the deal, and that does happen.
It does.
How do you stay calm? When you're deserved, it's your right to fight for it. How do you stay calm?
It's very easy for me to say, because
I'm very good.
I'm very good at giving examples.
Yeah.
You know, in life, when you are in that situation, it's a different.
It's a different story.
Exactly. But ultimately, if I were to give advice, is you have to think of it this way: it's always not fair if you do something, you do a job, or you sell something, or you deliver, and you don't get anything in return.
Or you get something but not the full.
Yeah, it's not what you deserve, let's say. And it's not what you've bargained for or agreed for.
Exactly.
And it's, in life, obviously that's not fair. And ultimately you want to get what you want. However, you also need to understand which battles to pick and which battles not to pick. And sometimes you're like, certain things are not worth it, because you're gonna go for it and it's just gonna be in a position where you just end up hurting yourself. That's where I try to, this is where I said, like, I'm a calm person, the whole world can crumble, and me and my wife always have these discussions where it could be like a very panicky moment, etc. And I try to tell her, saying, look, actually I'm teaching this to my daughter, because sometimes she has tantrums, etc. And a good example I use to her, I say, all right, Mariam, now you're crying. Now, is anything gonna happen because you cried? And the answer is no. So this is basically the conflict resolution. So let's say you go into a fight, and let's say you're arguing with someone you deserve, and it's not fair. However, if you're gonna create a scene, etc., etc., think of the outcomes. Is that going to bring you to the outcome you wanted? If it is, sure, go for it and try minimize the blowback on you. If it's not gonna lead you anywhere, do you want to go through the trouble of all of that headache, etc.? There's a lot of negativity that's gonna come from it, and the result will be the same. So this is where obviously you're like, you cut your losses, you learn, you take that experience, and you know how to do things better in the future. So that's the example I use for my daughter as well. I'm like, look, you're throwing a tantrum or you're crying. Is this gonna change anything? No. So what it means is let's act accordingly, because the crying, the tantrums and everything is not gonna get you the desired result.
Sure. I'm gonna play devil's advocate. Another person could approach this and say, well, if I'm not gonna get the desirable result and I'm not gonna get it anyway, I might as well give you some shit for it.
Sure.
Pardon my French.
No,
I might as well. I'm not getting anything, so I'll do this. Still nothing, but at least you get to feel that this is not right.
But think of it this way, is will all this that you do gonna help you in any way?
Yeah.
Is it going to improve your reputation? Is it going to help you get more business? And ultimately, it's your own mental health and your well-being. Is it worth all of that?
Because you're using brain power to do this.
Yeah, of course. You're killing your nerve cells, etc. So this is where in life you're like, is this worth the trouble? If it is, sure, be my guest, go for it. I still don't believe it's not worth it, but you know, everybody chooses for themselves.
Right.
But ultimately, you do that. It's called cost-benefit analysis. You do your pros and cons. You do a quick analysis, understand, you know, is it worth it, is not worth it. If you feel it's worth it, go for it. If you don't feel it's worth it, then obviously make other decisions. So my advice is always try to think of it, what is the long term? Yes, you might cause a scene, might make you feel better for a couple of minutes. Long term, it probably won't. So think of it, what it's going to have in a long term situation. And then, by the way, other people are looking at you. They're like, oh, you know what? Shon is a drama queen. You know, I don't want to do business with him because God forbid some unforeseen things happen, etc. He's going to throw a tantrum. We don't want to be dealing with this kind of person. So these are the things that you want to consider. Think of consequences long term. Ultimately, what's important is you and your image. And that's something that obviously is very important in doing business. That's what you should be protective of, and you think long term. There will be losses along the way. There will be mistakes. There will be lessons you learn. Ultimately, this will get you one step closer to where you want to be. This is why I said ups and downs. If I cried over every loss I had, or every bad deal that happened, or every you know, situation where I didn't get the money that I was due, I'll probably be still crying. However, I moved on and I was like, look, God will grant me you know, opportunity. I'll make up for it. I will continue and I'll get to where I want to be. And this is, I like to think that way, think positively. Again, it's very hard. However, this is what I would advise people to sort of think. Concentrate on the positive, concentrate on the goal. Leave all the distractions aside and go towards where you want to be. Because think of it also this way, it also takes a lot of your time. Now imagine if I'm going to spend hours or days fighting an issue or somebody that owes me money, etc. That's the time I could put into something else. That's going to give me the benefit. 10x what I lost here. So if I'm going to sit and basically argue or negotiate something here, I'm losing an opportunity out there. So this is where obviously you got to think. You cut your losses, you move on because not much can be done. You focus on, you know, growing and obviously improving. Search for the next thing, search for the next opportunity, and that's basically ultimately the goal. Well
said. I love the advice. We're going to wrap up, but as we just before we do, you mentioned in your bio that you would like to create a stable line of multiple income streams. What does that look like for you? Realistically, for Shokrukh Yulchiev, what sort of income streams are you looking at here? So maybe, for example, real estate, crypto, other means. What sort of income streams would you like to see as your definition of freedom?
Sure. On my side, the freedom is basically the position where I could live comfortably, do what I enjoy, and not have to worry about the next paycheck. And the only way to achieve it, you have stable income.
Correct.
And basically, this is where I said, now I came to a point that I want to work for myself. And whatever money I make is my money. And I know where the next paycheck is coming from because I'm working towards that. I have full visibility, and it's the work I put in, the rewards I get from it. Now, what's the freedom basically is I put in all that hard work and I invest that in the future. How it works is the way I believe, and going back to my you know, investment studies, is I create quite a lot of investment on my side, and that's the advice to everybody who is young. Imagine putting you know, $5 or $10 every week in like a little savings from a young age. Let's say you're 10 until the age of 18. Imagine how much money that's going to be. 8 years of basically $120, multiply it, that's a decent sum. Now think of it when you're starting to earn income. If you're putting a piece of that into investing into something, it could be real estate, it could be crypto, other things, etc. what you want to do, you want to create a scenario that you have passive income. So what you want to do is create that in the early stage so that you can start getting that as an additional bonus on top of the salary or the income you're getting. And then as you're working, you start saving more, investing more, so that passive starts increasing to a point where you're like, all right, tomorrow I'm comfortable retiring because I'm getting, I don't know, X amount of dollars, 10, 20, 30, $100,000 every single month. That money is coming, literally me sitting on a beach, enjoying, and then, I don't know, doing mentoring and coaching, which I could do even for free because that money is paying for my lifestyle, my livelihood, and that's basically is the goal, having that opportunity. Now, what I also would advise is not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Of course.
So not buy all of it with crypto, not just put everything in real estate, because everything goes in cycles, ups and downs, ups and downs. What you want to do is you want to get a bit of real estate. Don't get all of it in Dubai. Buy some here. Buy some, I don't know, let's say Europe. Yeah, it's Uzbekistan. Amazing market now, by the way. That's one of the projects I'm working on. There's quite a lot of opportunity there. There's also Asia. You have Bali, you have Thailand. There's great real estate opportunities there. So what you do is you diversify your real estate investment as well in multiple different locations. And on top of that, you have crypto. You buy a couple of different coins. You see what it works. You also need to understand when you're investing is you have to gauge your risk appetite and return. So if you want to get rich quick, you're going to have massive risk. But there's also high possibility you're going to get zero. So you have to understand, obviously, what you want to achieve. If you're thinking long-term and an investment, then don't go on the get-rich schemes. Try to find something that's relatively moderate or low risk. Put a bit of investment, every month or so. That will keep growing. Tomorrow when you retire, there's a good yield from it, and you're doing well. And on top of that, there's a lot of different opportunities. You can invest in business, buy a few shares. That will create you multiple streams of income that that you're comfortable. Like for example, right now, I'm working as a consultant and advisor. So anybody needs help in terms of growing the business, revenue, etc., I'm happy to help. So that's my one revenue stream.
Right.
I have a few real estate investment projects that I got my personal money in. I'm working on closing a few deals. That money will come, I will reinvest it. I'm working on a couple of financial projects as well. And I'm working to broker a couple of deals as well. So there's multiple ways I'm able to earn income, and I'm going to basically reinvest it in different ways. So this is where you have multiple streams that is giving you the financial freedom. So if this is what you're looking for, amazing. Hey, look, you could be lucky as well. You get a coin, tomorrow it goes 1000x. All of a sudden, that's how a lot of people got super rich overnight.
But they get greedy and they don't take profit.
That's the other thing. My advice would be is maybe that goes against to a lot of crypto natives is diversify. Cash out a piece of it. Get a few assets that creates that stable passive income. Because if crypto keeps growing, amazing, you will get even more rich. However, if it collapses, you're not going to go from a millionaire to zero overnight, which I know a few people that has happened.
Yes.
So that's a good way of basically diversifying, that creating the freedom for yourself that that if you're sitting there and all of a sudden income stopped and you're doing nothing, you have those investments that are feeding you and looking after you. And that takes away so much stress without people realizing, where you have to worry saying, you know what, I gotta pay my bills. What am I gonna do now? All of a sudden my crypto is down to zero. How am I gonna pay my rent? How am I gonna do this? How am I gonna do that? This is the freedom that will allow you to say, you know what, fine, I made it before, I lost it. However, I cashed out a little bit, so I'm kind of okay. But I will work harder next time not to make the same mistake, and I will rebuild. I'll get there again, etc. Because it goes in cycles. You will achieve it. Important part is to make sure you cash out a little bit and then you reinvest.
And stay diversified.
Exactly. Don't keep all of that in one basket, because you drop the basket, all the eggs break. Unfortunately, the basket could have been big and you could have had a lot of eggs. All of a sudden, you have a lot of broken shells.
Yeah. Well said. No, lovely. We're gonna wrap it up there, but I want to say thank you for your time, Shon.
Pleasure.
Really insightful. I think for me, the biggest takeaway was pick your battles. Money comes and go, but picking your battles and image, that's when the real test is, because when you're put in the heat of the moment of being tested and you feel there's an ego element to it on both sides, that's really the real test, because you're in that moment right here, and when an angry mind happens, it's a narrow mind, and you got to zoom out and be like, look, who am I? What have I achieved? There could be worse things I could be in, but I don't need to do this. I could be diverting my attention elsewhere, and I should be focusing on it. This is what is this to me? This is not going to work.
Yeah, in that situation, rationale goes out of the door.
Goes out of the door.
Exactly. So even look, we're all humans.
We're all humans.
Yeah, exactly. You don't think straight. So this is
No.
where obviously you need to calm down, breathe, and say, all right, let me take a step back, understand it, breathe, and understand, is this something that's going to get
But I'm still owed my money. Oh.
You are. But the thing is, by screaming and saying it, are you going to get it? No.
Probably not.
Exactly. So the way I live my life is one of the things that for me is super important is my image and my word as a man.
Yeah.
So if I say something, I got to do it.
You got to do it.
And I have to stick to my words.
Yes.
That's how I live my life. And this is where obviously my image and how I do business is super important.
Right.
So this is where these altercations, scenarios, if they're going to lead to harming to who Shon is, then I know that it's going to have a lot of negative effects in the future. People wouldn't want to do business with me. They're not going to trust me because they will say he's a prima donna or he flip-flops, etc., or he doesn't deliver on his word. So ultimately, I have to stick to my guns, even if sometimes it hurts me or if I don't get paid.
Bite the bullet.
That's life, you know. Life is not fair.
No.
So we just have to bite the bullet and work towards the next cookie that's going to come.
I love it, love it. Shon, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. And all the best with your brokering deals, your endeavors in Dubai, your career. I think you're on a great momentum. So I wish you all the best and hope to have you for round 2 another time.
Yeah, man. Let's talk in 6 to 12 months.
Let's do it.
And we'll see where we're at.
Thank you, brother. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you found this insightful. We'll leave all the links in the description so you can check out Shon's profile. We'll leave his LinkedIn, his Instagram. So if you're interested in any sales or tips or getting into real estate, I will leave a link there for you. So thank you again. Hope you found this insightful, and I will see you next time. Cheers. Let's go.
Web3 TV